When asked how he survived the back streets, a wise man once said, "You have to belong to a group, be it a syndicate or anything else. Living in the city gets too tough otherwise." So in that spirit, welcome one and all to City Career Day. Are you having trouble finding your place in this living hell? If so, don't worry, you will. Whether it's as a finger, fixer, feather, or anything else in between, we're ranking 100 factions all at once to find out the most sought-after organization in the entire city. But before y'all start reworking your resumes, we gotta go over some ground rules. Unlike the 4 other tier lists on this channel, it's not so clear what counts as a faction in Project Moon. So we're gonna count any group that meets 3 specific criteria. First, they have to have at least 1 named character, which already kills 1 association. Second, we're assuming that you'll be hired in whatever the lowest entry-level position is. So don't expect the prologue phrase to be on the list, since we have no idea what that looks like anyway. And third, the faction has to reasonably be able to keep you alive without getting another job. This means that cults, co-ops, and communes are all just as legitimate as capitalists and companies. All that matters is that they can give you what you need to keep your body functioning. And then most importantly, we have the bonus rule. If I think a group is fun enough, I'm gonna include it as a faction even if it doesn't meet all these criteria. So while the Trey Association's out for not having a named character, Papa Bongi, the Reverb Ensemble, and even the Time Ripper will all get their time in the sun. And last but not least, this tier list is about the employee's quality of life, not about the company's PR. I would hope this is common knowledge to an audience regularly exposed to this many content warnings, but murder is bad, as are hate crimes. Hell, while we're at it, insurance is on thin ice too. Unfortunately though, we're hard-pressed to find any factions that lack a body count. So instead, we're just gonna focus on the employee benefits. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun if we were to make the tiers as chat. Normally I make them beforehand. This time, I really just want to bounce some ideas off here. For instance, I think C should literally just be cult. I would say S as like dream career. A for awesome living conditions. I would say like A is stable job. D is just like some guys that are alive. I think that's about it. I feel like we can work the rest out. We'll say D tier for now, and I'll even remove cult. The last thing before we go into it, I wanted to have more fun with my mods. So we thought it'd be really cool if we make some terrible rumors about how I run my mod team. Like maybe I make all my mods take a shot of sweeper juice. Or maybe I make them draw like a really bad picture of Sinclair in paint. First off, this is Carmen's research team. Not the Sephiroth, not Lobotomy Corp, not the Librarians. These are the people that went into the outskirts, tried to make Cogito work, and, well, they ultimately failed, and several lives were lost. And unfortunately, they also tested on exactly 1 child. Now, that being said, I think as a regular person working there, if I'm just like, we are the lowest of the low that may work up later. So I think we would be Malcut. So if we're Malcut and at this job, I think this has to go in stable job tier. Like, we're trying to do something really good with the world, like morale is high for a while, and then it just kind of keeps going until it becomes terrible all at once. And here's the thing, that's just working at a startup, baby. Take it down a tier for the horrible end? Not enough tiers? I think you're right. Let's say, how about a good few years? Next, we've got the head. If we're talking about the people that are in the lowest of the low, unfortunately, we don't have a reference for that. We only have arbiters, claws, and beholders. So we can't really tell. It could be a dream career if you like being a fascist. If you're not though, I feel like you just have a really stable job. This might change by the time we get past the Inferno or something, but I think it's good. Claws are drugged up a ton. That's true. I think that's just a good reason to not put it as dream career. Most of the time, you're just ending this by sipping tea under a nice umbrella in the remains of what was once a wing. It's fine. YouTube mods are treated like beholders. I can't lie. Yeah, kind of are. Lobotomy Corporation with the Sephiroth. So this is not actually going to be the Sephiroth. This is going to be you, I guess, as a clerk or an agent. And I know we have a big difference between how clerks and agents are treated. I don't think it's enough to move the needle that much. I think we've got to put this in like living hell. I can't tell if it's a blessing or a curse that your memory of the up to, not even guaranteed, but up to 50 days that you experience is wiped so regularly. But if we even were to remove that, if you were just there for 50 days, you would probably be dead. I think this is it. You're just screwed eternally if you're in the headquarters. And if you're in the Sephiroth, I guess you might get a great retirement. In fact, you might get a really good retirement because now we have the library. I feel like depending on who you are, this could be a dream career. I think the library is unironically heaven to the people that live within it. Library is great if you are a librarian, Angela, or Roland. By the time you're like a librarian, all of your wants are basically sorted. And even if you were to die in a reception, you just get brought back to life. The worst thing is that sometimes you remember you're mortal. The rats.
Where the rats?
If anyone was going to have this tier, some guys that are alive. They're the bare minimum of what a faction needs to be. They're just some guys that got together. In fact, I might swap these tiers. You may live to get another job. We'll say living hell 10th. At least you can live to see another job. Next, we got Yoon's office. Because, like, this is a really low tier office. Isn't Yoon, like, a grade 7 fixer? Yeah, he's a grade 7 office. That's barely anything. Okay. I want to make another tier. We're going to keep making tiers until everything is satisfied. We'll say barely a job. If you're a grade 9 fixer working at Yoon's office, you're hoping you don't die and you can just get a cat from a tree, right? That's it. The Brotherhood of Iron? Some guys that are alive. Here's my question. Is it worse in life to be weak and almost certainly dead? Or to be stuck in a senseless body where you only get a marginally larger chance of being alive? Like, imagine Full Metal Alchemist, except Alphonse just sucked. And this isn't to like shit on them as people, because they are still people. But I think as far as working conditions go, this is just worse. Hook Office. Hook Office has some drip, I'll say that. They're at least an office. They take legitimate jobs, they seem to be on the rise, they established and they did the paperwork, and they seem to be significantly better at their job than Yoon's office. All right, next. We got Pierre's Bistro. Hot take, I think you could get a good few years out of it. I think Pierre's Bistro is a reputable business in District 23's backstreets. When we are running these tier lists, we are judging it based on the morality of the Project Moon universe. So the fact that it's cannibalism doesn't matter because it's normalized here. Hunting dangerous people get you killed though? That's right, but that's why I'm saying it's a good few years. You wouldn't be able to keep this up forever unless you really scaled up well, and it would get more and more difficult over time. Streetlight Office. I feel like Streetlight Office, a good few years. I almost actually want to put it in stable job, but I don't think that Streetlight Office is reputable enough for me to feel like it's stable. A lot of people associate these guys with the Zwei because they were basically jobbers, but if you're able to be associated with the Zwei despite having such a shit name, you've got to have some level of quality to it.
I think you know what I want in the dream tier.
Yes. Hello, the big brother of the middle. But you know what isn't the middle? Despite looking a lot like it, these guys are not a part of the middle. However, they do have a similar getup and style of fighting. I feel like they're like the rats if they were more capable, right? They did also work with the Zwei Association. So I feel like they have to go into barely a job just because of that. Next, we have the Zwei Association, which I personally think easy, stable job. I'm also gonna say this about the Zwei Association. The early Limbus IDs and the Streetlight Office and basically Library of Ruina did everything they could to shaft their reputation. But there's like some secret kernels of the Zwei Association that are legitimately badass. There is a grade 1 fixer in the Zwei Association who has a full suit of armor that doubles as a robot dog. And he was able to give Vespa trouble. You are just a bodyguard. These guys have a good life. They're rarely ever seen in true danger. This is one of the few associations where you could reasonably start off at the ground level and work your way up really well. In fact, I think that makes a case better than the head. In the head, you really need to know someone, and then you need to like get stupid serious really fast. With the Zwei, it feels stress-free. It feels like the American dream. Molar Office. Separate from Molar Boatworks, by the way. Molar Office, I feel like you can get a good few years out of. Imagine you have your childhood friends, and you all were in a bad way, but you wanted to make a true, honest living together. And you just made a little found family, and you decided, you know what? We got these pretty good pieces of workshop equipment. We can make it work. Let's try it. And then some shit happens on a warp train, and I'm not gonna lie, if I had to die some way, there are worse ways to go out. Now we've got to go into one of my favorite factions I have found. Can anyone in chat tell me who this guy's from? That's it. That's the Axe Gang. That's the Axe Gang. So here's the thing about the Axe Gang. I didn't know they existed before I looked up factions for this tier list. In fact, I'm sure I've missed some. I almost missed the Church of Gears. But the funny thing about the Axe Gang, first off, love the name, simple and to the point, they're gloop shittos with axes. But the funny thing about them is that they're best buddies with the Hook Office before they went legit. And now, they just really like to have a symbiotic relationship. And then they just say some syndicates actually do heroic stuff. This is the We're Not So Bad syndicate alongside the We're Not So Good Fixer Office. Talking about makes me miss my old friends. Don't get to meet those pals often these days. Might as well storm Hook Office this time around, see some familiar faces. They just want to see their old buddies again. Their buddies went legit, they got a real job, and now they want to crash at their office violently or otherwise. I'm inclined to say they're more legitimate than Yoon's office. That's really it. Next, we've got the Carnival. I'll put it to you like this. I think we need a new tier. Solid work with a catch. So, for those who don't know, the Carnival are that one faction that led to...
힘들었어요? 지쳤어요? 쉬고 싶어요?
잘리고 싶어요? 뼈가 녹아요. 살이 터져요? 죽지는 않아요.
네, 죄송합니다.
And that's just it. First off, that's the entire cutscene. Brilliant writing. Second off, the Carnival talk this way. They're dressed like a Slender Man jump scare if he just were also a weird guy in New York. That being said, they do have access to what was once a singularity. You gotta keep that in mind. They make thread that's supposed to be really powerful, and it just happens to be from people. Why are half the tiers piss? That's a really good question. We should fix that. That's better, that's better. Full stop office. We're gonna go with the one from Library of Ruina, not Hong Lu's version for that. In which case, I feel like this is a few good years. With the full stop office, like, they're powerful, don't get me wrong. They're a reputable office, but I feel like the bullets just suck. They don't seem very profitable. Yeah, they have access to guns and bullets, but dear God, are they hemorrhaging money if they get into a lot of trouble? I mean, it could be worse. They could be dead like Streetlight Office or like Molar Office, which actually, I feel like I judged Molar Office too harshly. I feel like they should be higher up. Now, the other issue with the Full Stop Office is that in-game, they're all shoot first, ask questions later. And that's why I'd like to take a moment to bring your attention to an indie project that'll make you feel like you're an H-Corp heir plotting their next move. Infinity Hexadome Tactics is a tactical arena game coming out on September 10th that, and listen closely now, I have wishlisted, played, and fully vouch for being a good time. If you like the turn-based strategy of XCOM or Library of Ruina, but would rather have chess-like maneuvering than crunching numbers for kills, this game is gonna be up your alley. In an arena where death is temporary, Hexadome is about getting your team into the control point before the opponent, and wrestling them away before the turn ends. That means the games are short enough to be easy to start, but intense enough that every move matters. On top of 12 characters with their own loadouts and personalities, which you can explore in a single-player campaign, you get tactical cards from generating crowd hype or completing sponsor objectives that can pull off major plays. For instance, the Bloodbath swaps places with another champion and damages all opponents in their range. Just imagine being able to stagger half of the team at once like that when move economy matters this much. And there's still time to get free early access by requesting a tournament build in Hexadome's Discord community or by joining the upcoming playtest unlocking the impressive Hockey Slam Arena. That's going on this week until August 18th. Plus, the entire game's based off of a tabletop source, and the team behind it have the best quality I can call someone: scrappy. They even allowed me to use other games to explain it, which companies are often so scared to do. So I respect the hell out of them trusting that their game stands on its own merits. If it wasn't clear, I like Hexadome a lot. So please, give this a wishlist on Steam and check out the Discord to get early access to Hexadome Infinity Tactics and some giveaways if you want to try it too. Links to both are in the description. Thank you again to the Infinity Hexadome Tactics team for sponsoring this video, and now, let's get over to a workplace that actually grinds my gears. The Church of Gears! I feel like if you are going in as a Church of Gears representative, you are playing Russian roulette.
Why the carnival kinda eyes?
Listen, I'm not here to judge. I don't do hear me out tier lists. yet. The Church of Gears is like saying, hey, here's your interview. And then the interviewer just puts a gun in front of you. And it has 4 bullets in the 6-bullet chamber. And it tells you to put it to your head. If you get one of the 2 safe slots, you're probably just gonna have gears inserted into you from other people. And if you get one of the 4 unlucky slots, you're gonna become a gear, and you're gonna be jammed into someone else's head so that they can become more powerful. Do any of you guys actually want to be in the Church of Gears? Yeah, okay, no, not me. I'm gonna put this as some guys that are alive, but they're above the rats. It's time for the Dawn office. This is the new gatekeeper for a few good years. This was a really good office. It's actually a pretty damn fine office that got in over their heads. I honestly want to give them stable job, because Philip is the lowest ranked member of the Dawn office. He doesn't really have any problems. In fact, one of his biggest problems that he has before, you know, the culling is that he just has an unrequited crush. They treated him super well. I'm inclined to say this is a stable job because they just made a really good small business. Gay's office. They got tripped, but I feel like they're a few good years in. I don't know where they're yet, but they don't feel like they have it all together. They feel like kind of like the Mulder office, except they're a little bit more put together. So I feel like they've got a few good years. Someone's probably gonna go their separate ways. It's probably gonna either be Bono or Alok, and that's fine. But I think as long as you're willing to do their work, which, what the fuck even was their work? Oh, intelligence collecting. Wait. Oh, no. That actually puts them up higher. These guys aren't even in combat a lot of the time. Oh, if they just had a better, like, team comp and benefits, they could be a stable job. Oh my god. We have the Kurakumo clan. I feel inclined to put this as barely a job. The Kurakumo clan is just an entire syndicate of jobbers. I'm sorry. I don't care about June at all. June kind of sucks. Not as a person, but like in terms of being a great representative for threat level. They do have a genuine racket though. Like if I'm gonna put Pierre's Bistro in a good few years, I should put Kurakumo in there. I don't know, man. It just feels so wrong. They're a very large syndicate that takes tolls from people. They're a part of the Thumb. They have their own hierarchy. But every time we see them, they're just eviscerated. No, is there a member of the Kurakumo clan that is not an ID and has been put on screen that has either not died or not been put into a position where they're expected to have died? They're frauds, man. They shouldn't be. I feel like they're kind of done dirty, but unless they're for sale in your silly little gacha, they're frauds. I'm putting them at the top of the bottom of a good few years. The Musicians of Bremen! This is barely a job. Or, you know, this is some guys that are alive. This is an extracurricular activity that the Ring happens to enjoy and maybe fund. This is an indie band. And I think an indie band puts them higher up than the Church of Gears. Okay, this is not the LCD. This is Moses' office from Distortion Detective. And this is going to be basically everything that the office experienced from its formation up to it joining the LCD. Moses' office pros. They're really good at getting sales because Ezra's great at that shit. Moses is a good boss. And you're really small, but fill a niche that gets regular business. And it's pretty easy to bankroll you, and you have a connection to the 7 Association. I would say that at least puts you up to stable job based on that. However, you are risking your life every day, and your boss is the most frail one of you unless you include yourself. This is either bottom of solid work with a catch, or top of a good few years. And I'm more inclined to put it on solid work with a catch, better than the Carnival. Then we've got one I'm pretty sure a lot of people won't be familiar with, Tai Young Produce Company. I'm gonna call this Living Hell. This is a company, not a wing, not an office, not a syndicate, but a company in Encore. I believe in the back streets as well, though it could be wrong. That was meant to make produce, except they decided they wanted to sacrifice 108 of their employees to a monolith in order to make a combination distortion because Diaz asked them to. You want to see what the Tai Young Produce Company looks like during Distortion Detective? It looks like the library if it was more fucked up. But any place that is depicted like this does not look like a place I want to work at. Either way, really shit management, which I can't say about this next one, Donggui's Combat Office. Unfortunately, these guys have the opposite issue. So Donggui's Combat Office is a grade 2 fixer office, pretty high up there. It's in the back streets of N-Corp, and it is a group that is hired to defend Moses from Vespa, because he's trying to kill her, or at least trying to apprehend her. There's a whole deal with that. Only issue with that is, much like the Kurokumo clan, most of them died. Like 90% of them died. Not all of them, but 90% of them, including Dongui. Do you think having a leader that you would follow to the ends of the earth is a good or a bad thing? Depends. It's a mix. Good. It highly depends. Good. Dongui is basically that, but he had a moral compass. It's just that his moral compass told him to let him and the rest of his men die for his client. I feel like that has to count as a catch, right? Let's say almost great work. Next, we have Ame Office. Who here remembers Ame Office? You guys remember that? Who? Nope. Ame Office, and this is true, is an office. They were one of the offices hired by Taeyong Produce Company to solve their distortion issue, but all of their fixers were killed. Their John office, there is literally no image of this office. The only reason I have this image is because I Googled Ame, and I didn't want to put a fucking waifu on here. Apparently, this guy is Ame, parentheses gamer. Apparently, he's a Dota 2 player, so that's awesome. This is just some guys that are alive. This is a picture of Sancho, but this is not Sancho. This is not the Manchanigan Blood Fiends. This is Hotel L'Arrière from Distortion Detective. So, for those who don't know, again, we're still at the Distortion Detective hole. We've got like 2 more of these. The last chapter of Distortion Detective has Moses, Vespa, Ezra, everyone else they've collected up to this point, go into District 12, and they have to stay at a hotel. And that hotel is run by a blood fiend. But the catch is that L'Arrière, who owns the hotel and is said blood fiend, just takes some blood from people while they're sleeping. That's how they maintain it. They don't tell anyone, they just kind of go for it. And she offers Moses a job to kill another blood fiend who might take her position. That's it. Is it like Hotel Maria? Yeah, pretty much. Their toasters don't work also. That's the issue. If you're working at Hotel L'Arrière, you're basically working at Hotel Transylvania. The rooms are like 800,000 on a night, which if memory serves, that's like $600. So I'd say that's like a pretty decent or upscale hotel. I think you get a few pretty good years out of it, yeah. This is also not La Mancha Land, by the way. This is the last Distortion Detective one. This is Rusk's office. So remember how I said L'Arrière from Hotel L'Arrière was asking Moses to help kill a blood fiend that might usurp her? This is the blood fiend, Rusk. So what's interesting about Rusk's office is that this is an office run by a blood fiend that didn't know A, that he became a blood fiend, and B, that he turned all of his subordinates into blood fiends. That's all we know about it. He looks actually strong. So I guess he has some rapport. I almost want to put him into almost great work, right above Dongui. Yeah, Rusk is a grade 1 fixer operating Rusk's office. Now we've got Virgilius's office. I feel like this is a stable job. Maybe not as much as the Zwei Association, but like you're working for a color fixer who is the color fixer at the time. You're working for a man who, despite being, you know, standoffish, is a good man's. And you get to hang out with a really friendly guy, despite the fact that he'll betray you later. A stern coworker who wants your best interest in mind. And the most androgynous fucking bitch bozo that just has sunglasses as children. Like, this is one of my favorite characters in all of Project Moon. And then Garnet. She just has sunglass babies. Ricardo and her would get along so well. I think this is a good office. If we ignore how everyone nearly dies, and I mean that as in there was only one survivor, I would say that this is the second best stable job because you're still putting yourself in danger, but you're like of the best there, right? That's it. All right, Wedge Office. I feel like these guys, they're in like higher urban plague at this point, but it is the same as Dawn? Dawn Office? Stable job? Ooh. I feel like the Wedge Office is worse than the Dawn Office. For one, are they on the same page a lot? Yes, absolutely they are. But I think some bad judgment calls were made by them. I think they've got an issue with thinking they're too hot shit for their own good. Wedge Office just finished trying to take care of the 8 o'clock circus, had one of their members die, and then right after they got the body back, immediately went back in over their head with reinforcements because they asked for help. I think this is a few good years in a worse way. Lovetown. I don't know if this should be living hell. I feel like, no, these are just some guys that are alive. No, they're not even an office. They're just Lovetown. In fact, you know what? I should put Ame office right above the rats, because at least they're an office. Living hell temporary. Here's the thing. The people in Lovetown are happy about it. This is really just an honorable mention, too. If I were being strict about the rules, Lovetown wouldn't be here, but am I really gonna ignore Lovetown? Come on. All right, pop quiz, guys. What is the one thing that sets the Rusted Chains apart from any other office? They take damage when they attack. Now, guys, second question. Do you guys know why they take damage when they attack in lore? Like, this is... Okay, let me be more specific. These guys use weapons that make them take damage when they attack. They cause themselves to bleed. And their strategy revolves around using cards and moves that bleed themselves. Do you know why they do that? Tattoos, masochism, tetanus core. Funnily enough, they do not intentionally wound themselves, which is what's really funny about it. If we go into G-Con's page, the reason they wound themselves is as follows. The only weapon we use is these spiky chains. Tie them, smack them, anything goes. You gotta be careful not to get swung or swayed around or bind ourselves with our own metal. My body's full of scars thanks to that. But hey, it's not all bad, right? They do it on accident. So I feel like you're not even gonna get a few good years. They're at the top of barely a job. Anyway, Zhang's office. I'd say this is a stable job. Zhang's office is basically a gaming lawyer. These are the guys that work in J-Corp. They work in casinos, they just make sure people aren't cheating, and they make sure that games are played fairly. They're affiliated with the Ufi Association, they have leads, their jobs aren't that dangerous. They're working with gamblers, that's it. I feel like this is a really cushy job, and even Zhang's office, Ishmael, is getting scouted at the end of it. This might be better than the Zwei. I don't know, I'll still put it below the Zwei, but I'll put it above Virgilius's office, mainly because the comfort really just outshines this. You're basically a security guard, actually. Now we've got the sweepers! Oh, Lord. I mean this in the best way possible. Being a sweeper is barely a job. It is the best kind of barely a job I think you could get. It's almost good work in the sense that you need to sacrifice something big to get something big in return. But the difference between that and a stable job is that you're not really getting paid in money. I don't think you live in a capitalist society if you're a sweeper, right? You do kind of have to suck it up as a sweeper and sweep the streets every night and see a lot of your family who you canonically care about die, whether it's because they got attacked by some poor strong soul who was out there or just some other issue, and you gotta keep walking. Imagine like The Long Walk, which I have not read and I'm just gonna assume I know about from a single movie trailer like everyone else does. But if you don't go fast enough, you're just going to lose your family, and if you fall, then you're just gone. Everyone will trample over you. They'll probably eat you to sustain it. You do at least have a family that cares about you. You're in a very strong culture, and you're part of a very strong, notorious faction that no one wants to fuck with. You can't leave by choice is the only issue, right? So just the middle? At least with the middle, you can engage with the rest of the world. With the sweepers, you're really just stuck there. I also would put them in some guys that are alive, but they do have a job. They're commissioned by the head. But I don't think I can put it any higher than that. We've got the She Association. Oh my god. Any questions? This is the worst fucking association to live in. I'm putting them intentionally below the Brotherhood of Iron, below the Rats, below Taeyong Produce Company. No questions asked. Yeah. The 8 o'clock circus! It's barely a job, but if I say it's barely a job, then I'm saying what I do is barely a job. Which, I mean, you can make the argument, but still. Like, Emma and Noah seem to be happy with them. They're all unemployed. Wait, do we put them as some guys that are alive? They don't really have a job. They really just hijacked the airways for a moment, didn't they? Yeah, there is a philosophy that Oswald has that's like, hey, why are we just putting on so many masks about ourselves? Why don't we just be happy and just remove all the obligation? I think I'm ranking them lowest because they're not really a workplace. All right, the index. I feel like this is actually a good place for the index, because I don't think you get a few good years out of the index. Once you're out of the index, you're gone. You're just fucking gone. I think if you believe in the prescripts wholeheartedly, then the index is perfect for you. It all hinges on you believing it, though. If you don't believe in it, and you're just in there, then it's a living hell. So, Frey, you're describing an early 2010s tech company. Wait, that's a really good way to put it. I think if we use that logic, which is apt, and we say a few good years, It's a few good years doesn't mean you leave it after a few good years. A few good years means statistically you are eventually going to be fed up with this place and it's gonna go to shit. I will, however, put them right above the Kurakumo because some people just never stop tasting that Kool-Aid. The smiling faces are an odd one. If you like to get high, sure. What do they even do? So they are a syndicate that the Blue Reverberation calls on in order to be enforcers to a higher up at the Shi Association that was making their lives miserable. They've expanded, and I believe they still exist. They got name dropped in Limbus. Oh, they're cannibals. I guess they do some peacekeeping? We don't get to learn anything about them, do we? No, they're just fucking cannibals. It's not even almost great work. I think almost great work is way too good for them. But I think if you're a cannibal that likes to smoke weed, I think the Smiling Faces is a good place to be. They're mentioned to invade H-Corp during the Hierarch War. Wait, what? The Smiling Faces, the Corpse Corps, the Yakshas. Maybe they're still big shit. Okay, you know what? They're above Wedge Office for that. W Corp. Dream Career? Why Dream Career? No! Absolutely not. Well, okay, I'll hear you out, because I really want to know why. They memory wipe you? Wait, do they? The complicated for me, what happens to transfer your verdict using the singularity of restoration? I guess they could restore you to the state you were at before you were there, I suppose. And you gotta keep that secret. You seriously buy that crap? Oh, they probably drag you to some dark room and kill you without anyone knowing. You still haven't told me why you would see it as a dream job, though, RR Tuber. I'm waiting. I think what we should act under is that it's either a memory wipe or they'll just fucking kill you. Under that logic, I would say it's probably a living hell. You work, okay, wait, you're making your case here, I'm reading it. You work for a wing, right? Get dope-ass weapons. If you can get high enough ranking member, then you're practically guaranteed to always live. This would account for nearly any other wing. I just don't think that accounts for the fact that it is going under and the conditions are getting worse all the time. Oh my god, if you work there, you're about to be a member of a fallen wing. Y'all remember Yuri, right? Yeah, that's about to be really bad. Oh shit. So yeah, living hell, congratulations. I will, however, I'll do it one service. At least their bosses aren't trying to kill them. So there's that. I'll put it at the top of living hell. 7 Association. Honestly, I think this is our first association that might be a dream career. It's idyllic life. I think the 7 Association might be the best association to work for out of the entire Project Moon universe. You're gonna be going into some dirty places, you're basically a detective, you're solving mysteries, you're solving crimes, you're like the city's version of a cop. When I say that out loud, it sounds immediately worse. Don't worry, it's gonna get worse and it's gonna get better. Sometimes, you're just doing regular PI work. Sure. Other times, you're actually solving real crimes. And the best part is, you're not really enforcers. Not as much anyway. But also, lest we forget, they have a cafe. And not just a cafe, a co-op cafe. And also, they have ties to Diaz. And also, I have it on good authority that working at the 7 Association is great for your skin. How old would you say this character is? This is a 37-year-old man. Look at this fuck. Look at this shit-eating grin. The Blade lineage. These guys are basically dissolved, aren't they? They're closer to being a few guys on a mission from God, which, in other words, is a mission trying to save S-Corp. If you're talking about Ong-Du and Babu-Headed Kim, they've kind of been absorbed into the LCD. I don't know if they can still be called the Blade lineage. I'd say that, like, as far as working conditions go, they're in a living hell. The Thumb. This one's tricky. I almost want to put it in almost great work. The thing is, if you're in the Thumb, you're almost assured to lose a limb somehow. Because Valentina lost an eye. Lei Hung is the only one that has gotten into his high position as he is without losing some body part. I mean, I guess Kahlo also got through it pretty well. Rule shut your mouth, pretty much. If you know how to shut your mouth, this could be great work. We saw through Sinclair's uptie story, his Thumb uptie story, that the Thumb is really well organized. In fact, a cult of hierarchy, one might say. If you just do everything they say, you're good. And the cool thing is, the further up the chain you go, unlike with the Index, it gets better for you. Now we've got the Reverberation Ensemble. These guys are a joke. And I don't mean that as in they shouldn't be taken seriously, but I mean, I added them only because people would give me so many questions in the comments and in chat for why I didn't. And the reason is there's literally just no grunt work in the Reverb Ensemble. The closest is being a Church of Gears representative, and we know how that already goes. Leo Association. I think I put it above the Dawn office. Do you like war? If you like war, then the Leo Association is not only going to give you a great way to feed that, they're also just gonna give you a really good found family. Like, holy shit. They're like the middle if the middle was healthy. In fact, most people stay there until they die voluntarily. See Zhao, see Lo. This is one of the few instances where coworkers working at the same association led to a marriage. I'm not saying that marriage is always a good thing, don't get me wrong. I'm proudly divorced to my current partner. But that being said, there is a real healthy familial connection. I said it before in a past tier list. You could make a Hallmark movie about the Liu Association. The only reason it's not higher is because it's just dangerous to work in. You know what, we'll keep this up because now we've got Kane Office. Kane Office, you gotta deal with Nemo. But on the upside, Kane Office has Nemo. What did Kane Office even do? They're lawyers. They're notary publics that are like a patent office, basically. Imagine you're willing to work for a company that's basically an AI company. Your perks are gonna be great. Your soul is gonna be so sold, but you're gonna be raking it in and generally speaking, safe a lot of the time. I'm gonna put this in almost great because you have to sell your soul for it. Now, ooh. I think it's our second case of living hell. Like LobCorp living hell. Like, especially if you're a reindeer, it's horrible. I don't care if you're a rabbit. Honestly, if you're a rabbit, that's probably a kindness out of all the alternatives. If you're a rhino, you're doing terribly. You're spending all of your money on sugar and caffeine just so that you don't get drained and exhausted all the time. If you're a reindeer, you're suffering from permanent migraines. Your work is, depending on your pack, always in danger, and you're just experiencing death over and over, so much so that Hong Lu wasn't able to stay cheery throughout it. It's the worst. I hope you like being chased down by the thumb until you're dead, because that's what the Night Owls have to go through. Unfortunately, as much as I think the Night Owls have a cool motif with their stiletto, before they even went to the library, the thumb was hunting them down, and they're not especially strong. So imagine you're a part of an office whose leader just shit the bed, and now one of those violent fingers is after you. That's just it. Or do we put them in living hell? Because they're kind of like the Blade lineage right now, right? But wait, Alan. Wait, we got Alan. Alan and Kanto, wait. I think it's only fair to put them as some guys that are alive. They're below Ame office, because we can't be sure they're still in office. Next, we got the Ujat. This is specifically Ujat, prior to them being in the LCA. If you're in the Ujat, you are basically a living puppet. That's not a joke. It's kind of like being in the Index, except instead of following the prescripts, you follow Dias. If you like to commit war crimes, cool. And I suppose you could live several decades there. I feel like this should go up to Kane Office, but just below it because it's very violent. But you work with one of the most powerful people in the city, but you are literally a pawn. But if you survive long enough, you know what? If you survive long enough, you get to work for the LCA. I'd say that's an upgrade. Mid-Eye Insurance Company, i.e. an insurance company. This is right above the Ujat. I've checked in these guys. They're a general reception, so the only character we have a confirmed name on, I think, is Irina. Pros, just an insurance company. Cons, just an insurance company. Exactly. This is Leaflet Workshop. And I feel like if you're like Ezra and just love workshops, this is a really good place to be. Leaflet Workshop is run by someone who is so damn mad about her work. This is Yai. She loves experimenting. She just wanted to go to the library for action. Her key page is just her talking about how fun it is to be in a workshop. This makes me want to put her like right below Zhang's office. Zhang's office is a stable job. Zwei Association's a stable job. Yai Workshop is like, you're in paradise if you love technology. Next, Baird's office is like if rats made it. Kind of, not really. Could you believe that this is one of the best managers you might ever have? Baird's office was made by getting a bunch of hooligans that he liked together to create a fixer office. And then a lot of them got along and a lot of them didn't. So he tried to be a leader, but then he struggled with it. And the story behind Baird is that he got a lot of help. He got help from Renaud. I think his name is Ronaldo now. He got help from one of Roland's old co-workers in order to get them in line. And Baird said, well, yeah, it hurt my pride to see such a spring chicken get them all together better than I could have imagined. But like, I know when it's right to step back. He's got that temperance. So I think they got it on lock. In fact, I want to say just a bit higher up than the Liu Association. I say this because Baird's office is not going to be compelled to join a war, unlike the Liu Association. I think that's it. Hana Association. Right below the head, yeah? It's a good job at an association. You have a lot of authority. It's relatively cushy and administrative, and it's a stable position that you can expect to last for a long, long while. You get in, as long as you don't fuck it up, you're staying in. It is the office. It is the association. Don't many dream of joining the Hana? Oh, you're right, actually. Oh, and you know what? It's dream career because guess what? You don't have to be a fascist. We've got Charles' office. This is Astolfo from Charles' office. Charles' office, for those that don't know, is the office that Roland, Angelica, and played Library of Verona, Olivier worked at before many of them disbanded from it. Charles' office was really prestigious. A grade 1 office, took down the Blood Red Knight, but it disbanded. When they were together though, they were a lot like Baird's office in that they were brothers in arms, but they were all very well named. You get in there, it's a dream job. There's a lot of prestige. I would put these guys right above Dawn office. Think of it like Blackbeard's crew from One Piece if that means anything to you. Next we got the LCA. So the LCA is basically the Ujat, but with better perks. The LCA does include the Ujat, but it also includes a lot of research positions. You guys are saying straight to hell? No. I feel like we can't call them a stable job whatsoever. In fact, I think I might have accidentally found the space for them. Yes, Diaz did sabotage them and kill the entire unit. Can't deny that. That's definitely happened. But are we going to say the LCE is the worst place to work because of that? I personally don't think so. I think that's just something to be aware of working at Limbus Company in general. That being said, the LCA outside of that is also really well respected, gets to do a lot of research. A lot of the lore I'm pulling from is from the objects. They have mirror world research observation teams. They have a lot of researchers in general. And their groups are really well organized. If the Ujat is this high, I would say that you have a better chance of surviving in the LCA than as an Ujat, but not as much as being a life insurance agent. And you gotta sell your soul there. You know what? I'll make a new tier. Great with a catch. Next we got the LCB. So this kind of breaks the rule about having like an entry level position to it. I'm just gonna say that, hey, maybe you are just John regular schmo that's a part of Dante's Clock. As far as we know now, it's implied that every member of the LCB has something special about them, which is why they were picked to be in there. But there's also a real chance that you're just some Joe schmo that's not special and managed to join in. Who could imagine who that is? This is one of the highest levels of job security possible. And I would say that if you can deal with dying over and over, that it's a great job. Because to me, the ability to not worry about death is probably the biggest benefit you could have in the city. But you also have the Liu factor, where you're around a lot of people having meaningful experiences. Hear me out. If you can accept the burning pain of death over and over, you could be a part of one of the strongest factions in the city. I feel like that puts it at least around the level of the 7 Association. Next, we got the LCCB. Ooh. That's a rough one. I personally feel like this has got to be worse than the Ujat, because you know the company you work for has the money to keep you safe. Unfortunately, you are being conditioned to sacrifice yourself for the LCB. Remember, your coworkers are good and pilot, but you're also being told that your life is expendable for someone else. You're basically human Pikmin. Oh my god, no. You're Limbus Company's Kurokumo clan. Oh, fuck. I mean, granted, they have a better survival rate in terms of characters, but that does feel like the case, doesn't it? The LCCA. I feel like the LCCA, unironically, better than the Thumb. Or you know what? No, I'll take that a step further. This is just a stable job, even above Dawn Office. They're essentially a cleanup company. They barely have to fight, because remember, when we went into the Wailing Kanto 5, Virgilius said, well, if you're in there for too long, do you know who they said would be there to save them? Not the LCCA. The LCA would come in. It's annoying, it's painful, it's dirty, but you're safe. In fact, Cayman, sorry not sorry, what are you even fucking complaining about? The LCD? If you are Moses, this is where working in the LCD is for you. But if you're like a newcomer, like say Ongdu or maybe Kira, I'd say it's almost great work. Moses has been traumatized by Dias, who basically is her religious figure. Technically, since Moses is a mother figure for Ezra since she raised her as a child, then Dias is like Ezra's grandmother in a weird way. So having to involve Ezra in that would put her in living eternal hell, and I cannot overstate that. If you're not Moses, it's better than where Moses worked because you have stable funding. You're still putting your life at risk, but at least it's more structured. Now for the LCE, honestly, right below LCCA. I'll put it right above the Zwei Association, fuck it. They're not meant to fight a lot. Sure, they have to deal with abnormalities. Imagine if Lobotomy Corp was run well. Well, people do die on the regular. Maybe I'm being a little hasty. The deaths still happen, but they at least try to prevent them. But they do have benefits. They offer a lot of paid leave. Hi, old G-Corp! Living hell. 100% in hell. Your body is forcibly mutilated. You fought in a war where you were literally pests meant to die. You are from a fallen wing, and you have all the disadvantages of having the stigma from a fallen wing, and also PTSD. It's terrible. It's terrible. You got H-Corp. We can say that you can live some of your time at H-Corp under Ji-Chun's rule. But we're saying it's as an employee, not as a hierarch candidate. That's separate. I made something for that. You're a pharmacist that can work with clones. And I think that is just a stable job. J-Corp! This is Emma from J-Corp. I would say this is probably the top of, you could get a good few years out of it. J-Corp is the most mundane wing company I've ever seen. But I feel like the only job we know of someone that actually is paid by J-Corp is Emma and Noah, who got so bored and tired of it that they decided to run off and join the circus and saw their bodies together. Like, if that's getting you to leave just from boredom, you can only be so good to work for as a wing, right? We gotta say that it is a better job than working in a hotel for a blood fiend. K-Corp. Is this the top of great with a catch? No, it's gotta be almost great work, right? Because remember, you get 70-hour work weeks. You get to eat lots of chicken. You get to live in your place that gets you lots of chicken. So after your 70-hour work week, like, you just get to enjoy the chicken. That can be your job. Don't stone the evil monster energy. Okay, if you're not an idiot, you can avoid that. Sorry, not sorry. Samjo was not smart about that. Oh, you know what? No, I changed my mind. This is the definition of a few good years. Like, just from the 70-hour work week alone, just from, like, large amount of competitiveness and kind of, like, passive-aggressiveness with it, I feel like you would get a maximum of 10 good years out of this place before you would want to move on. Now we've got M-Corp. Barely anyone knows about M-Corp. It is called MDM Enterprises. They are responsible for manufacturing the moonstones that help you not go insane. They are consumable though, and they have intensive therapy units. Mental health and wellness, therapy, all that jazz. Now here's the deal. The moonstones are made of flesh. Like, this might gross some people out. I'm gonna give you a little warning before I show you this. Jesus Christ, okay, you might have to take my word for it that it's But I will say, as someone who was raised by a social worker, and now that I think about it, the shit they go through on the daily fucks you up badly. I'm inclined to believe that working at MDM Enterprises, from the limited info, is really bad. It's probably I'll say almost good work. N-Corp! I don't know why I used Gubo instead of Herman, but it's Gubo. Specifically, this is the N-Corp League of Nine Literature's team. This means the researchers that are looking into the goo, the dough. You are not a part of the League of Nine. You're the people supporting the League of Nine if you're here. Which, in a weird way, you're in the same vein as an insurance agent. You're like a mad scientist. This is like the LCE if they were morally bankrupt and working for a morally bankrupt company. Bad group because you'll be fucking target practice for Gubo. Wait, oh my god, that's so true, actually. Hold up. Yeah, you might actually be in danger on the regular. Gubo might fucking kill you. To be fair, Dias would almost kill you too. So, you know, would you rather be killed by Gubo or killed by Diaz? And I feel like you would not want to be killed by Gubo. And now, let's see who's next on the faction list. Oh, motherfucker. This is great if you're a fascist. Let's see, dear God. This is the Nagalund Hammer extremists. This is actually the people that go out and kill people with prosthetics. This is a cult. I can't believe this is such a big turning point for me, but I think it should show, because I have to remove my morality. You have to understand, I have to remove my morality for this. I can't consider the amount of harm any sort of a group of people does on the city for this. I have to consider what the benefits and deficits of working for them are. And for me, a big thing that's sticking out, which is a genuine bias, is I hate like medieval stuff. But as far as like workplace conditions goes, your job is you have chosen to kill people for a righteous cause. Like, if we just break it down, you believe your cause is just and that people should die for it. I don't see that having a lot of good perks other than working for a wing, right? Yeah, they also experiment on you. You would be brainwashed into serving them, which is unfortunately somewhat common, but also you would really have all of your personality overwritten for a cause that supports this level of violence, which I think would erode your soul so much. But I think this is where, like, if we're gonna talk in terms of pragmatism as a job, it's going to be eternally camping. Where, like, yeah, it technically functions. These places are like a really good Toyota. It's a car that'll last you a while. This is like a jalopy. It doesn't feel like it's getting you anywhere. Kanto 10 may change that, don't get me wrong. But even if we're going to remove all of the moral quandaries out of it, it's just a fucking job. Even the Kurokumo clan, wait, are they worse than the Kurokumo clan? This is just the bare minimum to survive, and you're doing some real heinous shit at that. All right, P Corp. Working on making the safest place on Earth, you could have a really good idea list in that. Stable job there, a wing? I'd say so. You don't really see deaths at P Corp. The place is literally made to be safe. P Corp may be looking into something nefarious. They also work with Wayfarer Company. I feel like this is one of the rare instances where I don't see a catch. This is based off of limited information. In fact, you know what? Top of stable job. No, okay, below Yai. I'm sorry, Yai is so close to dream job. I gotta. I'm sorry, I gotta put Yai in dream career. I feel like it's unjust to a certain degree, but if we're really dividing it this way, stable job is something very different than what Leaflet Workshop does. Tapepeo Agro Industries. I think this also goes under Living Hell. Unless you are in the very small class of people that are benefiting from the corruption, this is hell. And even then, the wing is falling apart. Imagine if Yon Chun took over H Corp and made it super corrupt, and then just sold everything to Q Corp. I will give it the benefit of being the best of Living Hell because at least someone seems to be enjoying themselves. T Corp. This is interesting. There is a position in T Corp where you could theoretically feel pretty comfortable. It is as a tier 3 collector or higher. I would say it's one of the closest jobs in the city to being a normal day job. Hell if poor, not bad if rich. The thing is, this is working for T Corp. Living in T Corp is hell. Working for T Corp, like, you're a corrupt cop. If you're a tier 2 collector, if you can work your way up there and get to become a tier 3 collector, maybe even a tier 4, your life gets better. Did I make a big case about how being a collector in T Corp is still hell because time is always chasing you? Yes, I did, absolutely. However, you can get a few good years out of it. I think this is the top of a few good years. Next, we've got the Sank Association. Literally LARPing. I kind of want to put it as barely a job. They're hired as basically Zwei fixers, but just to settle petty disputes. Isn't Sank Deterrence? Oh shit, wait, I actually need to read Sank Don Quixote's. I only gleamed it. I shall answer earnestly whatever question I would like to ask. This was an interview identity update story? Oh my god, I missed it. Okay, no, you know what? I didn't get as much info as I hoped for. I'll take this back. Barely a job was the wrong way to see it. No, that's dream job. No, that's dream career. They are LARPers, but that's a positive thing. They can keep up with the fights. They want to do better at fighting. In fact, I don't know how or why the city has this as an association. They are indeed big shots. Aid association. You'll get a few good years out of it. You're boating. You're likely to die. You don't get a lot of perks. I think that you're like as good as any regular office. I'll put you at wedge office because you're probably gonna die, and they had Ahab as their biggest representative. We'll leave it at that. All right, Dev Yacht Association. Oh my god, that's a living hell. That's like above the Shi Association, don't get me wrong, but not by much. If you're in the Dev Yacht Association, you are a Grubhub driver where you are basically playing Crazy Taxi with food, and if you lose, you are dead. You are already in debt likely if you go there. You have a Poludnica, which is the closest thing you have to a decent friend, which is nice, I suppose, but your life is always on the run. It's the most fun living hell tier, I'll give you that. It's the most fun living hell tier. I will put it above Taeyong, but below W Corp, because you're still working for a wing. Dietchi Association might be a dream job. Dietchi Association, you're encouraged to learn, you're encouraged to study, so I'll put that above Yai. You're sent to find relics, which is really interesting. And they take care of orphans. Like, do they raise them to be, you know, future people that work for them? Sure, but like, they're doing well. Oofy Association. This, I would say, is a stable job. About as stable a job as Zhang's office. Oofy is being a lawyer. You are given authority, you are given good pay, you are given association's backings. It's the city, so you're gonna fight, but like, I would take that over having to work with I would almost take that over having to work with abnormalities. I feel like there's gotta be a catch to these guys somewhere, but I'm very optimistic about them. There's like 2 people are coming together, signing a contract. This is the third party that oversees it. That's what they do. This is the Dodeca Association. I'm putting this here because I just wanted to mention it. Dodeca is what the 12th Association would likely be called. I'm going to say barely a job because as far as we know nothing about it. No Trey Association. We don't have any character that's specifically from the Trey Association. We vaguely know what they do, and I just don't really want to talk about it because we don't really know what the conditions are. Next is the Eurodivye. I feel like they're at the bottom of great with a catch. I feel like they're basically a cult that seem to be doing a lot that makes some level of change. You feel good when you're with them, like they're high on their own supply, don't get it twisted. But you do feel like you are bringing something to the city that is dearly needed, especially in T-Corp. It is essentially the socialist uprising put into a syndicate, of course. But with Sonya being in the League of Nine, I feel like that's both giving them more prestige, but also giving them a catch. There's something up with them. We just don't know what it is. Also, fuck it. I'm putting the extremists down in barely a job because it barely feeds you. The TQ Syndicate. These are the guys from Kanto 2 that were really good at making insults. I feel like I can't put them in a good few years. These are like urban legend level guys. I think they're in barely a job. I'll put them above, the Rusted Chain solely because their gimmick, instead of making themselves bleed by accident, is insulting other people. The Ting Ting Gang are used car dealers, and they're also jobbers. I think this means, by definition, they have to be barely a job. Okay, next. I don't know how to say this, guys. I don't like the Mariachis. The Mariachis seem cool on the surface, but the more I think about them, the worse they get. They've got Ida, they've got jolliness on their side, they've got a level of whimsy. Pros. On the downside, they're sore losers. They force other people to engage in whimsy when they lose bets. So when they make people cry, they have to dance. And also, they're so unserious, but not like the kind of unserious that's cool. The kind of unserious that's like, what are we doing here? I feel like they gotta go into some guys that are alive. I'll put them right below the Church of Gears. Now we finally get to move on to someone who has a real job. Real working man's job. We got Yubong's Fryer and Grills. So this does kind of break my rule for saying that it can't just be one guy. If you think about it though, Yubong did hire a lot of bongies. He did have a lot of assistants working with him, and he did want his mom's help, and he did hire people like the guy that would ultimately betray them. But I do think that this guy genuinely has a business despite everything he's been through. So I personally feel like it's not a dream career. It's an in his dreams career, frankly. I think working for him is a little bit better than working for the Kurokumo clan, and that's saying something. I think if you work for him, you're gonna be in food service. Speaking from experience, not great, but at least you're alive. I feel like if you're working for Yubong, you're working for someone that's extremely troubled and finicky. And he did seem to be drawing business away from the existing chicken place. I gotta give him credit for that. Maybe he could actually be a good manager. The guy is kind though. Yeah, you have a point. You know what? Fuck it. That's enough. I'll put him above Hotel Larriere. The TLA are some guys that are alive. This is not a job. This is the Eurodivye if they weren't fixers. They were just terrorists. They've got good tech. They've got a cause. They work together for a while, and they have a genius leading them. But I'm sorry, can someone correct me if I'm wrong? Their manifesto makes no sense to me. Like, I usually like to think about these things before I cast judgment on anything. I feel like there is always some world where something makes sense to people. I do not think there's any means in which their manifesto is feasible. It's not even oh, I think this is terrible or deplorable. I don't see how this becomes real. We've got the Rose Manor office. It seems fine. I feel like they were an up-and-comer workshop. I feel like they were fine, they just got the wrong job. I'm willing to put them in the same level as the Molar office. We've got Molar Boat Works. So Molar Boat Works is basically Molar office, except in the future. They're handling crabs, they're handling making boats. That's how that works. Personally, I feel like that they are a step below where they were before. They still are running a real business that has the chance to grow, but I also feel like it's gonna be a big uphill battle for them to find a lot more meaning, you know? The Twin Hook Pirates. I could see you getting a few good years out of this place. You're a subsidiary of the Middle, which means that, you know, you've got some rapport, but then so does the Kurakumo clan, so what does that mean? Of a finger, anyway. You know what? At least Smee didn't die. I think Smee did overpower the LCCB. Well, you know, the Twin Hook Pirates overpowered the LCCB. I think this means they have to go above them. Speaking of the Middle, so my thoughts on the Middle, despite Kanto 9, are relatively unchanged. I think Matthias was an exception, and I think the Middle is basically one of the bigger monkey's paws in the city. Is it better than N-Corp's crew? I'm inclined to say no. I think great with a catch is good. I think that's fair, because you're gonna get your frat years out of you, you're gonna enjoy it, and then you're either never gonna grow up, or you're gonna grow up, and then you're gonna realize the mistake you made. That's it. Speaking of being unable to leave, we must now determine if you want to work under Captain Ahab. Do you want to be a part of Pequod Town? Do you want to slay the whale of all evils? Yeah, I don't think this is great, guys. I genuinely think Ahab might be under living hell. It's not even like eternal living hell. There's nothing super eldritch about it. It's like just terrible boss. The Gnome Workshop. Not even a real workshop. It's literally just as legitimate as the Nogaloon Hammer extremists, but at the very least, their work is less heinous. The dead rabbits might be dead, but even if we assume that's the case, this is one of the few jobber syndicates that I feel comfortable saying you get a few good years out of it. They were Heathcliff's old drinking buddies. They were the found family that the boy had, and Rousseau even had someone take him under his wing. I think there's a lot to respect out of that. Now we've got the ring. This one's complicated. I think it should go under great with a catch below the Middle. With the Middle, I gotta give it to the Middle. The Middle, the rules are very clear. With the ring, you've gotta keep trying to chase trends. Like, an entire movement of corporism was moded out because they got bored of it and juiced it for all it could get. You can make a lot of money, and it's one of the safer bets if you're good at making art. So, like, you would have to get violent with people, but normally they're just easels for you. Wuthering Heights. So, I've seen people talk about Wuthering Heights as being indentured servitude, which you can technically swing that in a really bad faith interpretation of it, sure. Being a butler at Wuthering Heights means you have to be very strict. You have to hold yourself to a very strict regiment. You are a fixer that is contracted to a household. You're just there to maintain the place and protect them. You're very specialized bodyguards with etiquette. The part that gets sketchy about it is that there have been some instances where the contracts last long enough to go down through several generations, and the original meaning behind them is lost. I am going to go into this assuming that you do have the means to accrue vacation. I'm going to assume you get to have that, because if not, that would be a lot worse. And I feel like something that bad would be something that Project Moon would have commented on. I would say this is a stable job. It's super stable and very well paying, unless the two people you're waiting on keep ruining your life. But hey, you can always go to N-Corp and become a member of the League of Nine Literatures. Multi-crack. This one feels like there's a big catch to it. This one is good, but you relying so much on your new prosthetics feels like it would deprive you of a lot of joy in your life. Other than that, it's pretty cushy. You know what? I'll put it under almost great work. So the Time Ripper is technically a collective. The Time Ripper is not one guy, but like 12. So technically, you could consider being a part of the Time Ripper a workplace. You could get recruited, voluntarily, agree to join, and then fulfill a purpose. And you could actually make a good amount of money from it. I think you could make the very real argument that it's a syndicate. Is it a good syndicate? No, they're a bit higher up than the sweepers. The sweepers are actual family. The Time Ripper is just a bunch of people that are like down on their luck. Eurodivier, defects. Like they literally defected. But I'll put them above these guys and the guy that accidentally hurts himself with his own weapons, right? La Mancha Land! La Mancha Land is a living hell. This is the Manchanigan Blood Fiends. I think I pronounced that right. There were some good times. And I think there were enough good times to put them above Escort. The Fang Hunt Office. Controversial as it may be, there is a service that they are giving. Because Blood Fiends, it's very complicated and extremely nuanced, but they do pose a threat to humanity. It's just that a lot of the time, we see them going for Blood Fiends that are desperately trying to not do that, so it really muddies the waters there in the city. At the same time, they were the jobbers of La Mancha Land. I feel like you could get a few good years out of it, though. I'll put them right below Hotel L'Arrière. Next up, we got Fire Fist Office. I think I gotta put these guys under some guys that are alive. I think they're around the Night Owls because everyone they know and love is dead, and they're making a desperate attempt to survive, but at the very least there seems like hope for them to survive from Firefist Gregor's uptight story since he beat La Mancha Land. They're the underdog that I hope is able to get away and work somewhere. So Jouet Pan is here, is meant to represent all of the Hierarch candidates, their factions, and any supporters around them. Living Hell Temporary, I think is very valid. I think that if you are one of the families that is trying to become the Hierarch, you are gifted so much affluence at the cost of your life basically being an eternal battle royale. In Shi-Chun's Age Corp, this becomes better, but I do think it's a temporary living hell, and it becomes better after the evaluation's done and you have no chance of surviving. The Pinky! I think this is the most barely a job there is. I don't think I'd call this a job. I think the only reason it's staying this low is specifically because I can hardly call it a job, you know? That being said, House of Spiders, we're just gonna keep on this because the music's fitting. House of Spiders is a living hell. I would, however, put it above W Corp. The Child Abuse Project where they put the worst people. Those who would be sovereigns of a star. They feel like they're closer to God. I'm gonna be real, I don't think being God is a job. If you can get in, that's great. I think this has to be the top of some guys that are alive. I think this is the literal top of some guys that are alive, actually. And I love the fact that it is right on top of Lovetown. The dichotomy is perfect for them. Wayfarer Company! The startup of the hour right now. Wayfarer Company looks very fun. It was basically the backrooms as a for-profit business. I will say that currently they're in the stage that Carmen's team was in before the horrors. I personally think, as far as wing teams go, they're kind of at Moses's level. I personally feel like if you like your job, if you like exploring, then you have a lot to do. You have a lot to look forward to because chances are a really good benefactor is gonna help you make a wing. You're partnered with P Corp and your job might kind of suck, but at the very least they care about procedure and people not dying. So that's cool. We have the best one. We have the most ideal mans that cannot go without being recognized. We have the man who arrived when we needed him, the one who is never without a smile, the one who reminds us that maybe sometimes things can work out okay normally. This is Ted's office. I love Ted. Ted fills me with joy. He's just a guy. I think having Ted in the office is a genuine great thing, and if he's willing to work there, yeah, I think I figured out the rule for my mods. I'm assigning all of you the job in the Discord of using the Ted profile picture for 1 week. That is the tradition. Or you can drink Sweeper Juice. And with that, my mod team is officially known as the Teds, effective immediately. We're leaving a couple of them going the extra mile to try out Sweeper Juice.
Hello guys, this is Sesa. Today we're trying a sweeper shot, so down the hatch I guess. I mean, it's not bad, honestly. I need more Tabasco. It just tastes like tomato juice. Or V8. It tastes like V8.
Hey guys, it's me RG. Cesar already did this, but I decided to... Oh, I decide to do the sweeper juice thing. Cheers up. Tastes like, yeah, V8. Huh.
There is a recipe in the description if you really want to try it, though I will tell you right now it is neither a pleasant or nutritious drink. But all that really matters is that I can now safely say, I too would rather be Ted than the head. Hey, thanks to everyone for joining me in making these tier lists over the past year or so. That being said, I am officially out of ideas since I have no interest in doing tier lists based on someone's drip or a smash or pass list, or especially any gameplay tier lists. Maybe my feelings will change, but right now, those don't really appeal to me. But hey, if anyone has an idea of something they'd like to see as a tier list, feel free to shoot your shot in the comments below. Catch you around!